Jazakallah, Sister Salina, for that intro. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Let me begin by saying that I'm really humbled to be part of this panel alongside our brave sisters from India and also Sister Amina from US. The documentary, it was really difficult to watch it with a straight face. It was very emotional, and it showed the reality, the ground reality, and we are all in awe of our brave, resilient sisters in India who have been so dignified in this fight. You know, this is an uphill climb. This is a very difficult battle, but you are inspiration to all of us. And so stand strong. More power to you. May Allah protect you and give you more strength. Well, the hijab, there's been countless narratives throughout history, based on who uses it and what the motive is. So the West have used it, they've have the anti-veil campaign to suit their colonial agendas. Like Afreen rightly said, we have narratives of the oppressed, poor oppressed Muslim women, and then they call us objectified. Obviously, we are, we don't have any control over our agencies, so clearly it can't be our own choice. So men have forced us to wear it, right? We're never in possession of our agencies. So depending on who is using it and what their agenda is, these narratives kind of switch and change. Now, in an Indian context, I think just like rightly as Afreen said, I don't think they can come back with the oppressed narrative, about the hijab, because at the protests, the Indian Muslims were owning it. They spoke up, they were leading the protests across the country, they were in public spaces. The veil or their attire did no way prevent them, from owning these. Comfortably owning their spaces. They were creating their own narratives. They were refusing to give way to others who wanted to speak on their behalf. So hijab, when they try to attack hijab, I think the Hindutva, they cannot use the narrative story anymore. They have to come up with new stories, right? By bringing this about, they're trying to demoralize us, our young generation, our Muslim women. They want to make us inferior citizens. Well, actually, when you think about it, they don't want us to be citizens at all, right? They want to take away our identities. They want to belittle us. They want to marginalize us further, right? Let's be really clear. Hindutva doesn't want us to engage. They don't want us to own public spaces. They don't want us to be educated. They don't want us to raise our voices. They want us to completely remove us from any narrative building spaces and medias and from any public discourse. And to those of us, like Sister Alia said in the beginning, from within our community, they sort of try and downplay it. At least some of us, saying it's only in Karnataka, it's only in a few schools, it's only a few colleges, it's about the uniform and things like that. Let's be really honest. This is part of a bigger agenda, and these things have a way of coming about, and it doesn't happen overnight. This is part of a bigger agenda. Well, in India's case, okay, maybe I spoke too soon. The Prime Minister of India does have a way of, turning things around overnight. So maybe, an overnight hijab ban is not completely, let's not completely rule that out. So if we don't look at it in all its seriousness, then I think we are setting ourselves to fail from the very onset. So let's call it what it is. And you cannot just, extract just the hijab ban out of its context and place it elsewhere and sort of dissect and sort of go into the nitty-gritties of that, without talking about the widespread agenda and what's been happening in India over the last few decades, if not more. You cannot ignore the Sangh Parivar's obsession with Muslim women. And this sort of takes different shapes and forms as time passes, particularly of violence. And why not? The Hindutva icon, Veer Savarkar, has justified rape as a legitimate political tool in his book called The Six Glorious Epochs of Indian History. So coming to think of it, with everything that's been happening in India, the question that we must really ask ourselves is, should we really be surprised at this hijab ban? Like Afreen rightly said, I'm going to narrate a few of the particular violence against Muslim women that we have witnessed in the past few decades. And if you have children listening, please don't let them listen to this. It's some of the details are quite graphic. and really uncomfortable and disturbing to listen to. So 2002 Gujarat mass killings, it's an exceptional example of the most vicious, large-scale, systematic sexual assault against Indian Muslim women in modern times. And the Human Rights Watch, like Ibrahim said, it included gang rapes and public stripping, ripping off body parts, insertion of objects into bodies, and burning them alive beyond recognition. And all of this happened under the then Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi. Right? Critics have alleged partial, or if not complete, involvement, although denied of charges. You cannot deny that he didn't do anything to stop this. And now the current Prime Minister. So our question is, should we really be surprised at this hijab ban? The Muzaffarnagar program in 2013. It shows it throws light on the very biased approach when it comes to safeguarding justice for Indian Muslim women. They were rape survivors, right? And they further faced, them and their families further faced death threats, delayed trials, and crippling inaction on the part of authorities. And this one, I'm sure you all remember. I'm going to poke your memory. This young 8-year-old girl from Kathua in 2018, she was gang raped for weeks in a temple, and then she was killed and thrown away into a jungle. There were some protests, for the support for justice for this little girl, but to our utter shock and dismay and horror, what we also saw were support rallies supporting the accused of this heinous crime. And the worst thing, 2 state-serving ministers of the BJP in Kashmir were attending these support rallies and speaking in support. Now let's picture that the level of hatred that you have to have within yourself to actually support this atrocity that happened to this little girl. Why? Because she belonged to this minority community. That's the level of evil we are talking about in current India. 1991 Kunan Poshpora incident, where Afrin rightly said the army soldiers allegedly raped hundreds of women in these villages. And according to Human Rights Watch, they denied any accusations, and a very delayed investigation of the incident concluded that the allegations were worthless and no one was prosecuted. And the viral video about this Hindu woman, I mean, you as a woman think, how much hate do you have to be filled with in order to call for rape of fellow women of your country, right? This is the kind of hate we are talking about. The lady, I think she's called Vibhanand Giri, she said, rape and impregnate Muslim women if Muslim men so much as cast even a glance at Hindu girls. And yeah, this was held not so long ago, December last year at the Dharma Sansad. Now we all saw how our brave little sisters are standing up for their rights, right? We all saw the video of our little sister Muskan, but they are in the docks. Now they are being questioned. They are being vilified. Those who question this hijab ban judgment, they've already been called terrorists and anti-national by BJP leader Yashpal Suvarna. And these girls are being questioned and not those cowardly men who were harassing them. Now that's privilege, right? Every form of dissent that comes about and from a Muslim individual is quickly slapped with, the tag of a terrorist or an anti-national or a UAPA. So this is the privilege that us Muslims are enjoying in India. So I could go on for ages, but all of this shows this constant obsession that Hindutva has with Muslim women. And in all these instances, Muslim women were targeted. Justice was never done. And in terms of delayed reports and delayed investigations, but let's be clear, justice delayed is justice denied. State and authorities were either indifferent or much worse, complicit. Now, from the 8-year-old girl from Kathua, to the women in Gujarat and Muzaffarnagar, what binds them all is their Muslim identity, and hence targeted to further punish all of the community, punish the entire community. The impunity which is enjoyed by the perpetrators, right? The delay in justice and any lack of protection for these victims and the witnesses, and little to no support from the state apparatus, that's only furthering the injustice meted out to them. But having said all this, it's laughable how our prime minister is never tired of showing, speaking about the imminent favors that he has towards Muslim women. He's bringing about for Muslim women, and his followers are forever showing pictures of burqa-clad women and hijabis at rallies. As Muslim women, we let's be very clear, we are more than capable of taking our own stand, speaking up for ourselves, not others, and definitely we won't let men or women of Hindutva speak on behalf of us. They are those who do not even acknowledge our existence, let alone our humanity. So the question we ask ourselves again is, should we really be surprised at this hijab ban? Should we really be surprised when our protests, our efforts are either ignored, they're either belittled or questioned? I think the simple answer is no. There is no room to be surprised anymore. There is no telling how much more ridiculous or unjust things are going to get, especially with the constitution tucked to the side, comfortably ignored, conveniently ignored. And the judicial system appears to be acting like a mouthpiece to the government. With all our might, let's just hope that the Supreme Court of India sees it for what it is. But it's definitely, like I said in the beginning, it's an uphill climb, this fight. And with constant calls of genocide, constant calls of hatred against minority communities, against Muslims, I think a genocide almost seems inevitable. It is a question of when, not if. And hate really has become the new norm. People don't even shy away from using that hate. It's out in the public for everyone to see. So let's not waste our time being surprised or shocked. We cannot despair. We don't have time to show our disbelief, because the sooner we get over those feelings, the better, because that's just the ground reality. As a member of the Indian diaspora, I can just say I stand in strong solidarity along with all my friends and supporters here, with our brave sisters in India. And with them, we say loud and clear, hands off our hijab. Thank you.